How to properly ask your Hinge match out. Now to me, asking out your Hinge match properly is imperative, and it's something I see done wrong all the damn time. We're gonna run through some examples later, but on Reddit and things like that, I see guys constantly wondering what went wrong, the date got canceled or she ghosted me. But then I see what they were actually saying, how they went about asking for the date, and how they went about confirming or not confirming the date, and things completely fall apart, and it makes absolute sense to me, but it seems like to a lot of guys it doesn't make much sense. So that's why I'm making this video today. So look, I don't want to make it seem like asking out your Hinge match has a full formula to it, but at the end of the day, there are a lot of things that you can do right and a lot of things that you can do wrong to definitely help or decrease your chances of landing that date. So on that note, there are quite a few steps that I have found from doing this for a really long time that will make sure that not only are you getting a yes for that date, but then that date actually happened. I'm sure a lot of you guys have planned a date before, and then for whatever reason, she ghosts, or it just doesn't end up happening, or it just keeps getting rescheduled. So let's jump into that in a second. But first, if you're new to the channel, my name is Steve from dudehack.com, and I'm an online dating coach for men. And at Dudehack, we help guys completely improve their online dating life. So if that's something that you want some help with, then consider subscribing. But today is all about making sure that you are landing that date properly. So let's get into it right now. Now, recently I made a video about moving things off the app. So basically what that means is you have moved things off of Hinge, and now you're texting either through like Instagram, WhatsApp, or just on text message. Now this step isn't 100% needed in order to actually get the date, but I find it does generally help things. Because now you're not just like every other Hinge match, you're a little bit of a notch above, you're a little bit more personalized, and it's a step towards getting to know each other a bit more. But watch that video if you want more information on that before we get to this step. But if you've watched that or you just want to skip that step, let's get into how you ask your match out properly.
Let's get to it, shall we?
Now, the first thing is knowing when the time is right. And as I said, there are definitely a few things that you can do on how to ask your match out to increase your chances. But the other thing to keep in mind is when. First and foremost, let's talk about what a lot of guys do wrong. Now, if you haven't watched my video yet on what a nice guy is, I highly suggest you do. But in a nutshell, what a nice guy is someone that just does everything wrong, just thinks that they are deserved a date just because they've been nice. And a lot of the time, what these nice guys do is they'll usually ask their match out way too quickly, or the second they get a little bit of attention or positive feedback, they'll jump right on that and then again ask their match out. Now you got to put in the work, and you need to look out for the telltale signs that your match is ready to be asked out. The reason this doesn't work is it's way too early. Even if you've done this before and you've got like a kind of half-assed, yeah, we should sometime, this is going to be way less effective than if you did wait for the exact right time to ask them out. That's because right now you're just a set of pixels on a phone screen that is yet to make her feel anything. And asking her out too early can get you stuck in a cycle of no. Or again, a half-assed yes that doesn't actually mean that she is ever planning on going out. And doing this will unfortunately make it so much harder for you later down the track when things might actually be right. So it's essentially like shooting yourself in the foot right off the bat. But how do you know when the time actually is right? Well, first and foremost, there are 3 different ways that you can go about it. Let's jump into the first 2 now. We'll go into the third in a little bit, because it is basically one of the steps that you need to do, I feel, in order to get to the date. But the first one is that they're showing that they're really into you from some really obvious telltale signs. Or secondly, it will be more so about the language that they're using in the conversation that's basically hinting at the fact that they are keen to see you. For the first one, there are a few things that you can look out for that are telltale signs that they're probably ready to be asked out. Now, don't take these completely as gospel, and as soon as you see one of these examples, you jump on it and think, okay, she's definitely ready to be asked out. But just kind of use your judgment and think, are these things happening a little bit more than when we first started the conversation? So firstly, she sends messages faster than you do. Secondly, her messages are longer than yours. Thirdly, she sends you a picture or a selfie just for the sake of it. She sent you a meme, a TikTok, a website just for the sake of it. Or she's using an extra amount of emojis, ha-has, or lols, especially compared to the start of the conversation. Now, if she's doing a combo of all these things, the conversation is really flowing and she's doing a lot more than the start of the conversation, there is a good chance that she is into you and she's ready to be asked out. But what about those little hints that we were talking about that she is trying to actually put out there with her language that she is ready? Well, in this instance, look out for language like I don't have any plans yet, or like I feel like doing something but I don't have anything planned, or even if she's like traveling or something and she points out that it's her last night in this city. Now, to me, why would she say any of those things unless she was hinting at the fact that she wanted to be asked out? So let's look at that first example that I threw out. I don't have any plans yet. Now, to me, that one word at the end of that sentence, yet, makes all the difference in the world. As opposed to just saying, I don't have any plans. Saying, I don't have any plans yet points to the fact that she doesn't have plans, but she's open to make plans. And hopefully you create them. And when it comes to the power of influence or motivation, there is a lot of research out there to show that if you give somebody a reason, regardless of what the reason is, when it comes to actually asking for something, they are way more likely to take action and say yes if you have that reason attached to it. Now, that might sound a little bit hocus pocus, but there is clear data on so many psychological tests out there that any little bit of reasoning behind you asking for something, as small as it is, does increase your chances. So if they're throwing something out like this, it's the perfect way that you can give a reason to asking her out. For example, if they were to say, I don't have any plans yet, you could say, well, if you don't have plans yet, we should go and get pizza. Or if they say it's their last night in the city, you could say something like, well, if it's your last night, we should go out and make the most of it and go get some Korean barbecue. Now, the third way that you can be sure that she is ready to ask, and I feel it's something that is quite imperative in the process of asking your match out, is planting the seed. Now, I made a whole nother video on this and it goes into a lot more detail, but essentially in a nutshell is planting the seed is something that you do earlier on in your conversation to basically throw out a bit of a loose plan or an idea saying we should go and do this or we should do this sometime, and gauging your match's response by it. In my opinion, it always will help out your chances when it comes to asking your match out, because unlike earlier what I said the nice guys do and jump in straight away and ask your match out, it's just a loose, pressure-free plan. And then later on, when it comes to actually asking your match out, she's ready for it and you've gauged her response if she's keen or not. What I mean about gauging her response is, let's say earlier on in the conversation, you brought up something that was a shared interest or a restaurant that you wanted to try or a band is coming to town. And you said something along the lines of, oh, well, we should try that sometime.
Should we try the unicorn one?
Or something like, awesome, when that band comes to town, we should go check them out. Now, this isn't a concrete asking her out just yet. It's just throwing out, remember I said planting the seed. And if she responds something like, yeah, we should, that sounds awesome, then you know later on in the conversation, again, when things are going well, the momentum is hot, then you definitely can ask her out. But if she kind of like skips past that question, or she's just kind of like, yeah, cool, and then changes the subject, then maybe you have a bit more work to do. But remember, I go into this in much more detail in the other videos, so make sure you check that out. And it's very important how you actually go about asking this and using the right language. I see a lot of guys do this in a very weak way, and that's unfortunately just gonna hurt your chances a lot. So make sure you do watch that video. But moving on, let's just say that one of those three ways has shown you that your match is ready, or ideally all of them. How do you go about asking her out? Now, this is one I see done wrong all the time. Unfortunately, for a lot of guys, they think they're doing the right thing. They ask the match out, they maybe get like a half-assed yes, and then it comes time to the date and she ghosts you or disappears, and they're thinking, what the hell, like women these days. I see it all the time on sites like Reddit or from my clients, and it's a very, very quick and easy fix. But first, let's run through an example. Now, I wanted to show you a couple of those examples first because they're the perfect examples of the weak way to ask out your match. Now, the masculine way to make sure that that plan does happen is what we're going to go through now. But keep in mind, this is only when you know the date is on. You've done all the steps before and you've got a good indication that your match has said yes. Otherwise, this won't work and might just kind of come out of the blue and seem a little bit slightly demanding. Now, you might have seen this before or heard about it on TikTok or YouTube or something, that one of the most attractive things a guy can say is, I made reservations. And if you look at those examples or you watch my video on planting the seed, you'll see there's a lot of guys out there that will ask things like, oh, well, like, when are you free? Or like, what works for you? What do you feel like? And I get it. That sounds like you're being really nice and just trying to include her in and making the plans, but it just comes across as weak. And women, unfortunately, a lot of the time, not all of them, but most of them, don't like that. You want to show your masculine ways and that you can take the lead. Now, the way that you ask her out is actually so simple, and I've found when most guys follow this process, or guys that are my clients and have started doing it this way, dramatically uplift the amount of dates that they go on. But before we get into that, just a word from our sponsor. So just a very short break for today's sponsor, and today's sponsor is me. Now, the channel is supported 100% by just myself. We don't have any external sponsors. With that being said, I want to tell you about today's sponsor, which is Hook Her Heart. I've developed this groundbreaking new course which teaches you everything you would need to know about online dating from A to Z. It's called Hook Her Heart, the modern gentleman's guide to attracting, entertaining, and retaining high quality women. In my new jam-packed 5-module course, I'll walk you through some of the most vital concepts like how to build a good physique, exactly what to eat, whether you want to lean up or gain some muscle, my methodology for upgrading your look from grooming to a whole wardrobe transformation, a fresh overhaul to an attractive, intriguing dating profile, my exact process for optimizing your pictures to get way more matches, my best openers that get interested responses from women, live breakdowns of magnetic conversations, my core methodologies, and the 6 pillars of conversation, what to do on the date to give her an amazing experience, and the smoothest, most natural way to escalate towards your end goal, plus so much more inside the course, and 3 awesome bonuses that you'll get for free if you sign up before my special introductory price expires. So if you are serious about transforming your dating life and you want to learn literally everything you would ever need to, well then click the link down in the description below so you can get the special introductory price offer that's not going to be available for long. Now that's it for today's sponsor. Back to the video. Now, you just heard from our sponsor there, and one of the things it does go over in a lot of detail is in your conversation, guiding the way. Now, guiding the way is one of our pillars from our 6 pillars of conversation. And I know this might sound confusing, the 6 pillars of conversation, what is that? But if you have gone through the course, it'll make a lot more sense. Alternatively, you can watch this video on how to actually have good Hinge conversations. But essentially, guiding the way is just kind of, again, planting seeds throughout your conversation, or making it clear that the end goal is for you two to go on a date. So you might have said in your conversation that, hey, you guys should go for dinner sometime. And by guiding the way, you also would know from the conversation when she's free, what she does for work, and kind of have a rough idea of, okay, that kind of like nighttime idea might work. Or kind of like have a rough idea that, okay, she works on Tuesday and Thursday night, so we can't ask her out then. I know that we spoke about what she's doing this weekend. She doesn't have many plans. I'm gonna ask her out this weekend. And then if you planted the seed, which again, if you've watched that video, will make way more sense, you would know, okay, she's open to the idea of going for dinner. And again, these things are really important, that you're not pulling this date completely out of thin air and getting stuck into a cycle of trying to like rearrange and make plans that work for both of you. So a way that you could go about this, if you followed each of these steps and you know that the date is pretty much 99% on, you could say something like, hey, I really wanted to try this steakhouse in this suburb. I was thinking we should go on Tuesday at 8 o'clock. I'll make reservations. What do you think? Or it could even be something like, hey, I wanted to take you to my favorite place on Wednesday. Does that sound good? Saying when, where, and what you want as a man shows initiative and usually is a very attractive thing. Now, it's good to still throw out the question at the end, like, sounds good, or like, have you been there, or something like that, rather than just being like, I made reservations, 8 o'clock, be there or be square. Because yes, it is a masculine, take the lead type thing, but it's not like too demanding, be like, I expect you to be there. And if you just want to make sure right beforehand that it's not being like too over the top, you could say something like, hey, are you free Wednesday night? But remember, none of this when are you free nonsense. Now, a lot of the time people will ask me, well, what if she's not actually free at that time? Like in one of those examples before, I said, you know, I was thinking Saturday night, let's go at 8 o'clock to this place. What if she turns around and is like, oh my God, I've got plans then? Now, I'm telling you right now, if she is into you and you followed all of these steps that we have gone through properly, then she'll either cancel her plans, or secondly, actually give you an alternative time that does work. That'll usually be something in the form of like, oh, that sounds really good, but unfortunately I am busy like with my family on Saturday night. Can we do on Sunday or the next week? If she doesn't and she just says, oh no, I'm busy that night, I'm sorry, my man, but you probably haven't followed these steps properly, or she's just not that into you. And on that note, that's why you need to check out Hook Her Heart, because that will go through all these steps in a lot more detail to make sure you are not getting that. And again, the link is down in the description if you want to check that out. Now, another video I created recently was how to keep plans that are far away. And again, I see this all the time where someone makes a plan for like 2 weeks away for whatever reason, and they get really surprised when 2 weeks pass and they haven't really spoken to their match at all. And it gets time to the date and that person asks, hey, are you free for this night still? and the person either disappears or says no. It's really important that you are keeping the momentum rolling for plans that are a little bit far away. But again, make sure you watch that video just to be sure to do it right. But ideally, you should try to ask your match out as soon as you can from that conversation time. And the way that I've talked about asking your match out, leading the way, being masculine, you want to make sure that you're not just stopping that after your first date. You want to keep that going. In fact, especially on your second, third, fourth date. Currently with my girlfriend, if I just out of the blue say, hey, I made reservations for this night, she will love it. And the last thing is make sure before you go on the date that you do your due diligence. I made a video here about all the things you need to do before your date to make sure that you are setting yourself up for a date that's fun and safe, and essentially just like not getting catfished. Now, before we wrap it up, if you're somebody that's not even getting enough matches to actually get to the dates, then you might need your profile assessed by some professionals. I highly suggest that you take the quiz down below where you can upload your actual online dating profile and answer a bunch of questions that me and my team can assess to actually give you some personalized feedback on what you need to fix up. And also just a reminder, if you want to skip ahead and just be elite when it comes to online dating, make sure you check out Hook Her Heart, which is our online video course, which will teach you everything you need to know from getting the matches to asking your match out properly and having successful dates. If you have liked the video today, go ahead and press the thumbs up button down below and consider subscribing. But until next time, guys, I'll see you later.